Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day, everybody. Welcome back to the second day.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Welcome back for the second day of strategic resilience and sustainability in the halal economy. And today we have several distinguished world-renowned speakers who will continue to talk on the resilience and sustainability for our halal economy. So, for a start, the purpose of the 7th International Halal Conference is actually to share knowledge and information as well as technical know-how in terms of navigating in a VUCA world with integrity. So the conference purpose is to actually reaffirm ethical integrity and trust as mentioned in the speech by His Excellency Mr. Ihsan Ovod yesterday. So ethics, integrity and trust is the fundamental foundation of halal systems. Then number 2, the objective is to strengthen governance and institutional confidence in uncertain times. Next is to translate the values into resilient economic and social mechanism, as well as to support human capital and development, which actually consists of us all, as well as also the community and ummah. And it is actually grounded with purpose and responsibility in this world and hereafter. And finally, we hope that by initiative with this, we are able to enhance local and global cooperation and sustain and continuity of it in the halal context as an ibadah, so that we'll gain the blessings and barakah in this Ramadan. So we hope that it also cuts across sectors, regions, government, masyarakat, and ummah. So for today, the focus will actually talk on resilience, economics, ESG, Maqasid alignments, as well as supply chain, capital, and delivery mechanism. We will have 3 distinguished speakers, beginning by Dr. Awal Fuseini, who is a highly experienced halal sector manager, academician, consultant, animal welfare expert. I think if you want to see Dr. Awal's credentials, you can Google and you can find so many reputable references online. Okay. And after that, followed by Dr. Irshad Cader, CEO of Halal Industry Consultant. And finally, Ms. Anita is Institute of Enterprise Risk Practitioner, Malaysia. So the sessions for today will be presented by these 3 distinguished speakers. And after that, we have panel discussion with the presenters. We actually welcome lively interactions with our online audience, and you can put your inquiries, questions, your sharing of experience online, and we will do our best to share and interact for this afternoon. So without further ado, I now call upon our first speaker to please forward with your presentation. Let us give a warm welcome to Dr. Awal Fuseini, who will talk on resilient economic, how halal system will hold on under pressure. Dr. Awal, the platform is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you see my slides?
Yes, it is very clear. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Good morning, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to, well, I said good morning. Good morning from the UK. There are some people who are in places where it's afternoon or evening. So inshallah, I welcome everybody to this presentation. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Today's presentation is on resilient economics. So I will be looking at how halal systems are designed to withstand the test of time. So how Muslims can use the Quran and Hadith to be able to withstand challenges, external challenges in the halal economy. So thank you very much for the kind introduction. Just a little bit about me. My name is Awal. I hold a PhD in veterinary sciences from Bristol University in the UK. And I've published about 5 books and around 20 scientific papers on animal welfare, slaughter, and halal meat production. I also work for the UK government's Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, and I do consultancy on the side as part of my day-to-day life. So it's a pleasure to be able to meet everybody on this call, and inshallah, let's see what we can discuss. So the halal economy is built to withstand the test of time. So we drive our guidance from the Quran and also from the Hadith. One of the most powerful verses is that all mankind eat of that which is halal and also that which is permissible, or which is tayyib. So if you look at all these 2 main pillars, so halal and tayyib, that was revealed for over 1400 years ago, and that is what most communities, most countries are doing at the moment, because they're trying to make laws that make their foods permissible, as well as looking at food safety guidelines to make it wholesome and permissible for and safe for their communities or their populations to consume. However, this was revealed over 1400 years ago, and we know that this is something that we can, as Muslims, use as a guiding principle. Again, in the Quran and Hadith, we can derive guidance on how Muslims should protect the environment and also protect animal welfare. A few years ago, we published a paper in one of the highly reputable journals where we looked at livestock agriculture from sustainability of livestock agriculture from the Islamic perspective. And if you look at the Quran and the Hadith, you will find verses and also scriptures where Muslims are enjoined to protect the environment by not overproduction, not over consumption and other things, and also protecting the welfare of animals. So, for instance, in the Hadith, somebody was reprimanded for branding an animal because they were using hot iron to brand the animal. That is that highlights welfare. Also, in Hadith, we are enjoined, or we are encouraged, or we are asked not to use processes that would deplete the natural environment. So soil erosion, water contamination of water bodies, and other things. So this paper, if anybody wants to read it, I can send it to you later on. It's just focusing on the Islamic perspective on livestock production and animal welfare. Again, in the Quran, Allah has warned Muslims not to cause environmental production or environmental degradation, or to cause corruption on earth, because the way we live our life, whether you are farming or whether you are consuming food or even other aspects of your life, will impact on the environment. So that is why we are told in Sahih that, and do not do mischief on earth. And mischief could mean things that can deplete the nutrients of the soil. If you are doing overproduction on the soil, that could be described as mischief. So, for instance, if you are also, if God has blessed you with a lot of money and you decide to buy 10 cars in the house, that could be described as, or that could be seen as extravagance. So, as Muslims, we need to be guided by the fact that we are not, or we have been instructed not to do mischief on earth, or not to do things that would deplete the environment. Because if we deplete the environment today, our children will not be able to find the right resources to produce food that they need. Another thing is Allah has put Muslims, or has put humans in charge of the environment as khilafa, or as guardians. So we are only here. It's like you are renting a land. God has put us in charge of the environment to look after the environment, but not to deplete the environment. So in Sahih Muslim, it says, the world is beautiful and verdant. Verdant means something that is green. So God has presented the environment or the world to us in a verdant, which is verdant and beautiful. And be he exalted, has made you servants. So we are only servants of the earth. We are only protectors of the earth. And that if you, and he sees you, sees how you acquit yourself. So whatever we do on the day of judgment will be accountable for it. So whatever you are doing, whether on the environment or even the way you consume food. In the UK, for instance, Muslims form around 6.5% of the population. But the 6.5% of the population consume around 30% of lamb that is produced in the UK. That is a huge amount of lamb that is produced, that is consumed by only 6.5% of the population. So that brings another question as to whether Muslims are consuming a lot of food, or whether we need to be a bit cautious or when we are consuming food. I've also been to the Middle East, for instance, in Dubai, where you can see a lot of wastage of food. So there's a lot of food that is being wasted in restaurants and other places, because when you buy a huge amount of dish, you only eat half of it. The rest of the half will be going into will be going into the bin. And this is something that we need to take another look at as Muslims, because God is telling us we are in charge of he has put us in charge of the environment. And that doesn't mean we should do whatever we want. We have to consume in moderation. We have to produce in moderation, no overproduction. And when you produce post-harvest losses, you need to try and avoid post-harvest losses as well, so that future generation can have access to the resources that we are using today, and the next generation will also come and have access to the same resources. And in terms of slaughter, as I said, my PhD was in veterinary sciences. So this is one of the hadith I really love, because it tells you this. As I said, this was revealed over 1400 years ago, but it is still very relevant in today's world, because Allah is telling us that verily He has prescribed a son perfection in everything. So it's not just slaughter, but in everything. But this is particularly about slaughter. So if you are going to slaughter, you need to slaughter well, slaughter in the best manner. And if you want to kill in the best manner. And this is one striking thing about this scripture, is that this was 1400 years ago. But if you look closely, there is the difference between slaughter and killing. Slaughter is different from, if you slaughter an animal, is different from killing an animal. But the verse is saying, if you slaughter, slaughter well. And if you kill well. And at the last part of the verse, it says, let each and every one of you sharpen their blade before slaughter, so that they can spare animals suffering. This verse 1400 years ago, if you compare to this regulation, I'll use the UK for instance, where we have the welfare of animals at the time of killing. It says you should spare the animal unnecessary suffering. If you compare it to this one, it doesn't need to change. This one can withstand the test of time. This verse is telling you that if you are slaughtering, sharpen your blade, and also ensure that you slaughter well. If you slaughter well, you can spare the animal avoidable suffering. So that is one thing we need to realize, is that whatever is in the Quran and Hadith, if you compare it to today's world is trying to mimic whatever the Quran says. So the Quran and Hadith can withstand the test of time. Again, for those of you living in the West, so as I said, in the UK, there is a rise in anti-halal sentiments. So, for instance, in the UK, there is a group calling for halal slaughter to be banned, whether stand or non-stand. There are people who don't want to see halal at all, whilst others are calling for the end of non-stand slaughter. There is another group from Compassion in World Farming who are calling for the labeling of halal or stand and non-stand. That is, in my opinion, is a better way of calling for legislative changes, because if you label things stand and non-stand, that is good for the Muslim community, because there are some Muslims who don't want to eat stand products. There are some Muslims who are happy to eat stand and non-stand product. So that, I don't think there will be a lot of people against that. But when you see the other one, which is end non-stand slaughter, there are other groups who are calling for an end to non-stand slaughter. That is a little bit critical, because there are some observant Muslims and there are some Orthodox or people who are, if you compare people who are a little bit older to the younger generation, the older generation are more leaning towards non-stand. The younger generation, to be honest, most younger generation, they don't really care about whether the product is stand or not. But when you are making law, you don't make law to alienate part of the population. Although non-stand is normally to the older generation. I'm not saying the younger generation do not like non-stand, but if you do studies, the older generation are more stricter towards non-stand, whilst the younger generation are likely to accept both stand and non-stand. So for those of us living in the West, there is that problem where we have to try to explain why our method of slaughter is good. And what we need is, we need to use science. We need to move away from emotions. When people are challenging your method of slaughter, you don't just become angry about the whole thing. Take your time, explain with science, explain with Islamic scholars who can communicate this message properly. So, for instance, if the government is asking for non-stand to be banned, we need proper representation in Parliament. We need to educate our members of Parliament on why non-stand should be allowed to exist. I'm just giving an example. And also the labeling, as I said, for labeling, many Muslims are happier to see their products being labeled as halal or non-halal, or stand or non-stand. But in the UK and other parts of Europe, there is no law or there's no legislation requiring you to label your products as stand and non-stand. But in the UK, if you are a consumer, you know which certification body stands and which certification body does not stand. So, for instance, the largest non-stand certifier is called the Halal Monitoring Committee, and the largest stand certifier is Halal Food Authority. So if you find a product that is labeled HFA, you know it's likely to be stand. That is labeled HMC is likely to be non-stand. So labeling, is it an option? As I said, yes, it could be an option, because, and it's good for the Muslim community. Many halal consumers who want their products to be labeled. However, there are a lot of things. So if they label things in the UK, Shekita, they do not accept standing at all. So all their products must be slaughtered without standing. Whilst halal, we do accept standing and non-stand. So labeling will help halal consumers who want to avoid stand products, or who are happy with both stand and non-stand, so they can make informed decisions on the way forward. However, it's not a very simple process, because if you look at stunning is not generally accepted as halal. So the HFA, Halal Food Authority, they will not accept all types of stunning. They will only accept some type of stunning called reversible stunning. So a labeling requirement will be a good thing for for both consumers and also, well, it may make work a bit harder for certifiers, but for the consumer, it may be, when I say certifier, all processes may find it a little bit of additional work to do, but for the consumer, that will be a good thing for the consumer in terms of making purchasing decisions on whether they want to avoid or accept stand and non-stand products. So, can Muslims, the question I've got is, can Muslims survive in foreign countries like Europe and America? We need to understand the fact that there are laws that exclude us. There are some very stringent laws that are very close to our to making halal things very, very uncomfortable. So again, for instance, in the UK, if you are using gas tanning, there's something called gas tanning of chicken. If you are using gas tanning of chicken, the law requires that the chicken must be killed in the gas chamber before you hang the chicken. So that is completely doesn't sit well with the halal requirement, because halal, even if you are standing for halal, it shouldn't cause the death of the animal. So that is one thing. Sometimes law and halal is very is very difficult. You want to obey by the religious laws, and also you want to abide by the geographical or the country's laws. The other one is religious freedom, wearing a veil, whether it's even accepted, slaughtering without stunning. There are some countries that have banned slaughtering without stunning. So South Africa is one of them. Australia is one. New Zealand is one. But in the UK, France, Germany, and others, you can slaughter without stunning. So we need to have a look at all this, because you want to observe your religious requirements, and you also want to ensure that you abide by the countries, the laws of the country where you are living. So what options do we have as Muslims? As Muslims, we need to find halal standards that are, I know finding a unified halal standard will be very difficult for us, but we could find regional standards. So Europe should have a halal standard that is accepted by everybody within Europe. The Asian standard should be accepted. Asian standards should be accepted. Malaysia, Indonesia, they are very, because of the proximity. The GCC can also come out with, well, they've already come out with the GSO standard, although it's not accepted across the the GCC countries, because the UAE have got their own standard. If we could come out with regional standards, I think that will go a long way to alleviating some of these problems. Because if you present a standard to say, okay, this region will use this standard, everybody in that region will agree to that standard. So if governments are making laws within that region, they will know what is required during halal slaughter. Also engage with governments. The Muslim community in Europe, for instance, some do not engage with their local government, and that is very, very bad for us. We need to engage with the government, because the government is who is making the laws. And if we engage, then we will be able to communicate what we need from halal perspective. Another one is engage with researchers. Researchers, we need to tell them what we are looking for, so that when they are doing their research, they can take that into consideration. So for instance, if you accept stunning, but you accept stunning based on the condition that the animal shouldn't die as a result of the stun, you need to communicate this to researchers, and then researchers will understand what you need, so that they can model their research questions around your requirements. The last one is better training and research on halal. So training is very, very important. But if you look at halal certification in the world, there are so many auditors who are not trained. That is not good enough. Before you go to an abattoir or a food processing plant to audit, please ensure you are trained properly. according to food safety, animal welfare, and other requirements. Because being a Muslim alone does not qualify you to be a halal auditor. So you need to be better trained on what you are looking for. So, for instance, if you are a Muslim and you just go to a slaughterhouse to audit, that is not good enough. You need to understand what the slaughterman is cutting when they are doing the slaughtering. You need to understand how to observe for signs of life in the animal, because in the hadith we are told that you shouldn't process the animal until the animal has died, after you have slaughtered the animal. So what are the signs you can use to ensure that the animal is dead before slaughter? So these are all very, very important requirements that as Muslims we need to do. We need to conduct a lot of training of our auditors. The other bad thing is that if you take two auditors to a company, say let's say there's a company slaughtering animals, and you take two different auditors from different halal certification bodies, one auditor may finish the auditing in 2 hours, whilst another will finish it in 4 hours. That is not good enough. We need consistency. So with training, if you train people properly, you know that if, as a halal auditor, if you get to the abattoir, you are looking at the layrage. You are not just walking straight to the point of slaughter. You look at the layrage, you look at the restraints, you look at the slaughter, you look at the post-slaughter operations. So you need to look at how the gut is removed from how the skin and the gut is removed from the animal, to ensure that there's no risk of cross-contamination. And then you need to follow it to the chillers and other places. But we don't receive training on this, but we need to receive the training so that there will be consistency. If you take an abattoir from an auditor from Australia, or another auditor from Ghana or India, they should be able to conduct a good audit within the same amount of time, so that we have consistency due to training of the auditors and other technical staff involved in halal certification. So thank you very much. That is it. That is my email there and my number. If you want to contact, inshallah, I will be available. And also I'll be available during today. I'll hand over to you, but I can also answer questions if anybody has got any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Awal Fuseini, for a very insightful knowledge sharing, and you had actually shared on the challenges that need to be done and resolved, not only based from UK's experience. We also have to look into how other best practice, perhaps there can be solutions towards this, and it is not actually a one-day event to solve all problems on the spot, but it may take years, and we really need to start. We just cannot wait. Okay, thank you again. Now, I would like to call upon Dr. Irshad, Dr. Irshad Abdul Cader, CEO of Globothink Halal Industry Consultants from Australia, with the title Designing Sustainable Halal Ecosystems in Emerging Markets. Please welcome Dr. Irshad Abdul Cader. Dr. Irshad, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, yes. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Alina, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Qala rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. What an important and beautiful occasion that we are in today, and also in the blessed month of Ramadan, and we are going to reach the last 10 days of blessed nights, inshallah, in a day or two, or maybe 3 days. Of course, I live in Australia, so I'm ahead of you all. So for me, it's around 6 p.m., 6 p.m. So having said that, the organizers have chosen the right and timely needed topic, and the theme actually for this particular conference, the 7th edition, Navigating a VUCA World with Integrity, Ethics, Governance, and Human Capital as Stabilizing Forces. So it's a timely needed topic by the team, as I mentioned. So also carefully selected topics for the whole the season. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the organizers, sponsors for organizing this. So my topic today is designing a sustainable halal ecosystem in emerging markets. This topic is somewhat, it's also important, but it's also more current and the situation that we are in today. And a little bit of myself. So I'm the CEO, Managing Director of Globothink's business consultants. Especially we are focusing on halal industry development. Also, I'm a PhD holder and in halal industry management, focusing on Muslim-friendly tourism. And also I did my master's and the rest, different parts of the world, of course. I have 35 years of experience in business development, commercial management, international business strategy, marketing management, and various other capacity building roles in Asia, Australia, and Middle Eastern regions. Also, I've been consultant for a number of private and non-profit organizations. Also, of course, a recipient of a number of international awards in private in the private and the government sectors. Plus, I'm very much involved these days in the halal industry and halal industry development. Also, I do provide talks in different platforms regarding the halal industry and also how to develop, because the halal is the brand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the halal is an act of ibadah. So as the chairperson said, and it's our obligation for us to spread the word across the world. All right, let me start with my first slide, which is global halal economy. It's an overview, as you know, this report was released in 2024 by OIC. Now we are almost 2.5 trillion, although it's 2.29 in 2 years ago. So surely it's 2.5 trillion US dollar market. It's excluding finance, making it one of the fastest growing consumer segments in the world. But Islamic finance assets are estimated around $3.96 trillion. So in overall, we are sitting around $7.2 trillion industry. So this is such an important industry for the entire globe. The global halal market of 2 billion for Muslims, and not only for Muslims alone, for non-Muslims as well. We are also expanding, in addition to food and beverage and financial related products, to halal travel, modest fashion, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, halal entertainment, and various other sectors. So it's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. So the reasons for the halal economy to become dynamic, why emerging markets matter. So this is important for us to know why it is so dynamic. Number one, increasing youth population with high disposable income. So this is something very important for all of us to know. So Muslim youth are now accounting for 11% of the world population and representing just under a half of the total global Muslim population. So we have Muslim Ummah. Now we have almost 50% of youth representing the entire Muslim Ummah. So that's something very important for us as a community. We need to make sure that this segment has been well taken care of. So this is one of the reasons for the dynamism in the global halal industry, and also speedy growth of economies in Middle East and Asia. So these economies are likely to emerge popular destinations for halal food, halal travel, and halal fashion. We can see that. And also the growing Islamic consumerism. It's also something important for us to know. The urban middle-class Muslims in majority Muslim countries, such as Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, and also Muslim minority countries such as India, China, and Russia, So the consumerism amongst urban Muslim population is also on the rise. Also staying updated with the latest advancement of technology and investment, integrating smart innovations and embracing the growing demand for ethical products and services. So this part, actually the technology is also contributing for this dynamism. The tech industry is supporting us, online purchases, halal tracking system, halal tracing system, also halal product identifiers. So the technology is also helping the halal economy to grow at a very speedy rate. Now let us look at this particular slide, which is about halal ecosystem. So what is halal ecosystem? This particular slide, I really like this because this was developed by Halal Knowledge Center in Malaysia. And if you really look at it, halal ecosystem is not a single monotonous system. It has so many players. If you really look at the diagram itself, you see halal in the middle. Of course, there's a core, halal and socio-economy. And you have, of course, the important factors surrounded the halal economy, socio-economy. So number one is employment, trade. It creates trade, employment opportunities, halal integrity, and also investment opportunities. So those are basically support factors surrounded the halal socio-economy. Now, let us look at another circle just beyond that. Those are the pillars which helps the halal industry to grow. Human capital, science and technology, then also you can see infrastructure facilities, of course, incentives. You can also see data and analytics, information-driven decision-making, awareness promotion, that means the marketing and promotion, policies and legislation by the governments. So all these factors are embedded and covered and a supportive measure for halal industry to grow. Now, who are the people going to benefit? Number one, this industry as a whole. SMEs are going to get the benefit out of halal industry. Micro industries, and limited liability companies going to get the benefit out of halal industry, and also multinational companies. As you know, Cadbury has been Nestle's, or Cadbury, which has the largest factory in Malaysia. So of course they produce halal. And so the MNCs too making the most of the halal industry. Now, the final layer, if you look at this diagram, you can see consumers. The consumers are the end users. The consumers are the one who are going to consume it, you and me. So what benefit out of it is that halal is being given, the opportunity is given. Like Brother Fuseini said in his presentation, of course, the consumer will have a comfortable and peace of mind situation where they can consume, which is halal. So all these factors, all these players are basically put together, we call halal ecosystem. So halal ecosystem, in other words, halal ecosystem is a network of components involved in growth cycle and delivery of halal products and services to the entire world. So this is what we are looking for today. So we're looking at the halal ecosystem, how best we can nurture, how best we can develop, how best we can take the halal ecosystem to the next level is something that we are going to discuss. And inshallah, we will do it along the way. Right. In this VUCA world, is it easy for us to manage the halal ecosystem? It is not. By the way, VUCA world, it's not meant to be crisis. It's not a crisis situation. It's basically contextual. It is basically providing opportunities for us to maneuver. So VUCA, the word VUCA itself, we'll come to that in a minute. It doesn't mean that we need to be worried of. We are concerned of. Yes, we should be concerned, but we should see what are the opportunities we find within this VUCA framework, VUCA system. Let's look at the challenges that we face in establishing a sustainable global halal ecosystem. Number one, As Brother Husseini said, fragmented halal governance and regulatory inconsistency. This we see everywhere. Many emerging markets lack unified regulatory frameworks. At least if you can't unify, make sure that you all can be grouped together like regional certification bodies and multiple certification bodies with different standards, confusing everybody, including the governments. The governments, let's keep the Muslim majority countries' governments aside. Non-Muslim governments, non-Muslim country governments, they will feel confused. Which standards to follow, which standards to be embedded into their policy document. So it's a big dilemma at the moment, not only in one or two countries, majority countries, because we are fragmented. Second challenge we see is weak halal supply chain infrastructure. So the emerging markets often lack integrated halal logistics system, which is a major challenge. Poor segregation in logistics and warehousing, even storage facilities we don't have. Many countries do not have even segregation of halal food versus non-halal food and are being stored in the same area. So it's another challenge. Then if we move on to the third point, the third important challenge is insufficient access to Islamic finance. We see immediately after COVID, post-COVID, we saw so many, millions of SMEs were shut. They couldn't proceed any longer because the Islamic finance structure, the compliant financing instruments were not strong enough in many countries. They couldn't afford to lend money to the SMEs, right? So even SMEs want to go and lend or to borrow money, and it's a higher cost of capital for them. They cannot bear it. So that's a challenge. So we do not have sufficient access to Islamic finance, right? Also, we are, of course, one of the, what should I say, richest or the communities in the world. And we should have planned this long time ago, but still we are weak. Another challenge I have seen is limited awareness and technical expertise, right? Again, we do not have clear awareness, not only for industry people, also even for consumers. We are not aware of real halal. What does halal means? We know it's halal and tayyib, and we know about the permissible and non-permissible, but we do not know, we don't go beyond that. How to select a halal label product? What are the ingredients can be consumed and what are not? Even not only for that, even for modest fashion, even halal pharmaceuticals, we need to know how we can select the right product for us to consume, and that's lacking. And also another important area is, I think Brother Husseini mentioned this, lack of trained halal auditors and Sharia experts. We are not producing enough. Although we are $7 trillion business or market, we are not producing enough professionals. So human capital gaps slow ecosystem development as well. So this is something we all have to understand. Then the other important part is the infrastructure and technology limitations. There are many countries, many emerging markets, they are very weak in technology or technological limitations, like some countries in the third world where they find it hard, where they find it difficult to invest in technology. So technology gaps reduce transparency and competitiveness. Still they are with the old system and they cannot be much more efficient than before. So everything is handled manually, and therefore it takes a lot of time for halal producers or halal marketeers to take the halal products and services to the rest of the world. So let's look at, now we all are talking about VUCA world. So what is this VUCA world? So understanding the VUCA world, it is the modern global business environment. It's as simple as that. It is the modern global business environment. If you look at this model or the framework, so V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, and C for complexity, and A for ambiguity. So let's look at the first one, volatility. So a key aspect of our work is subject to major unpredictable peaks, and troughs. So we know that what's happening in the Middle East at the moment. It's a volatile situation. Just imagine you are into food and beverage, or you're exporting food and beverage to the Middle Eastern market. Now you are in a situation, how you can manage this situation. Can you export your products still? Or how is it going to impact? And I live in Australia, and we are one of the largest exporters of halal meat to the Middle Eastern region. So now we are thinking, what can we do? We can't send our ships, and we cannot send our products. So volatility. So this is a typical VUCA world. Second, uncertainty. So the future is unknown. The future is unknown, but external events are likely to be impactful. Of course, what's happening now in the Middle East, it is the same as that, uncertainty. We can't project next month sales. So we cannot project for another 6 months forecast. What's going to happen to my business? How can I plan my business? Those days we usually plan our businesses short, medium, and long term. Now there's no long term anymore because things are changing pretty fast. So this is the real typical VUCA world we are living in. We can only plan for tomorrow or next month, but not after 6 months or 1 year. This is the typical VUCA world that we are talking about today. And also complexity. Many interconnected factors influence one another. So it's always challenging, right? There are lots of policy changes happening. Consumers are changing. Consumer preferences are changing. Technology is changing. So how best you can maneuver your business within this world? So complex situation, right? Certification processes are complex. And the European region doesn't accept one particular certification from another country. So they require something else. So everything is complex. How can you manage this situation? Then the ambiguity. Ambiguity is conflicting, noisy, lots of information, not sufficient information, or needed information for you to take decisions. So ambiguity is always there. So this is the type of world that we are living in. Therefore, we call it VUCA world. VUCA is the term introduced to the world by military. So military was using this terminology, not business people, but business world started using this VUCA term immediately after or during and after COVID. So that's what we are basically using this very often, and it is relevant. So halal industries must adopt resilient and flexible ecosystem strategies. This is where I'm coming from. So resilient, we cannot take second step. We cannot go back the path that we came. We should be resilient. We should face these challenges, and this is what Islam talks about. We are not second to none, and also our flexible ecosystem strategies should be able to maneuver these sort of uncertainties which we are currently facing. Now let's look at what are the recommendations that we can put forward in establishing a sustainable halal ecosystem. Number one, first recommendation to the emerging markets. Number one, robust halal certification and accreditation system. Let's move on. Let's move on to internationally accepted, reputed accreditation systems. It could be regional. You can take, as Brother Fuseini said, or in globally. So we have SMIC, OIC standards, JACIM is there, MOIS is there from Singapore, and also BP, JPH from Indonesia. Let us unify, let us harmonize so that we will not confuse the consumers and also the policymakers. This ensures global trust and reduces fragmentation across markets. This is something very important. I know for sure SMIC is working so hard on this part to harmonize and to have one single standard. So if you cannot have one single standards, if others are not accepting, at least let's have 2 or 3 and then let's work towards it. This will help to grow the halal industry to the next level, and also the emerging markets will find it easy. Second recommendation I can make is integrated halal supply chain. So halal compliance, sourcing, and procurement is something very important. We need to make sure, we need to set standards. The supply chain must be preserve halal integrity from farm to consumer. So we can use technology for this. We call it farm to fork concept. Of course, that throughout the supply chain process, we should be able to trace it back We can use technology, of course, blockchain traceability, and it's been used in Indonesia already by poultry companies. This is something that we need to promote in order to resolve these problems. So third one is something very important: Islamic finance and ethical investment infrastructure. So Sharia compliant funding mechanism, sukuk, waqf, zakat-based social finance. These are some of the things that we can do. I should say Bank Sharia Indonesia is doing a great job. Three different banks got together and they formed this a few years ago. And they help the SMEs, MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises. And they have, of course, contracts that they have, and it's interest-free, and they're helping microfinancing. Also, Bank of Malaysia, they're doing a great job for SMEs. So we need to have this infrastructure. So far, financial architecture ensures long-term viability of halal industries. This is the backbone of halal economy. We need to have the financial resources that can really take our halal industry to the next level. As Brother Fuseini mentioned in his as one of the slides, research, innovation, and technology. These three are very important for us to grow the halal industry. So establish halal research and development centers. It's something very important. Now we are running out, the whole world is running out of protein. So what is the alternative proteins that we can do? And sustainable food innovation. And we are going to run out of food, and we need to make sure the risk that we are going to face, how best we can do this. So we need to have research centers all around the world, especially in our Muslim countries, because we are looking for halal and we need to come with. And also AI-based supply chain monitoring. This is partly, of course, the technology part. So these are some of the recommendations I make. And also the fifth one is, of course, human capital and talent development. This is the, what shall I say, the nerve system. This is the nerve system of global halal economy. We need to have human capital development and also talent development. So this part must be focused by every country. I know some universities are doing it, halal competency training, halal executive training programs in Malaysia, International Islamic University is doing it. Also, ICDT, which is a sister organization of OIC, is doing it. They're based in Morocco, Casablanca, and they're also taking some initiatives, but it's not enough. Universities should take the lead in developing these human talents. A skilled workforce ensures resilience and scalability. This is the bottom line. So we need to develop human capital in every country, and we need to focus them. We need to get the next generation to be into halal industry and halal industry development. Then the sixth recommendation I put forward is policy, trade, and global market integration. So national halal master plans. We have 57 OIC Muslim countries, OIC member countries. How many countries out of 57 have incorporated halal industry into their master plan, in their economic plan, national economic plans, or national economic policy? We need to ask this question. Are we focusing enough? So it's something very important. Malaysia is doing a great job in that. Malaysia has developed integrated halal industry frameworks that combine regulation, trade, and innovation. Of course, it's been called as the Halal Industry Master Plan 2030 and HIMP 2030 in in Malaysia. Indonesia has 2029 plan. In that part, that's what the government was trying to have mandatory halal certification program for even including MSMEs onwards. So this is something very important. The government should make sure to embed, to incorporate halal industry development as a policy in their master plans. This is something very important for all the governments. Also, another important part is consumer awareness and ethical branding. So the manufacturers should be transparent in labeling. They need to be transparent. It's very important. We need to provide that confidence, and we need to tell the manufacturers, could be Muslim or non-Muslim, please make sure that your label and the transparency is something very important. Do not play with the brand halal. Halal is the brand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we cannot meddle with that. So we need to make sure that we are promoting the transparency. And also we have digital verification system. These the startups, we need to promote the young generation, those who are very tech savvy, to start developing halal industry related apps and any other form of identifications and verification processes. Let them take the lead as well. So digital verification systems could be another, and also education on halal integrity. This is especially for the consumers. Consumers must be taught what is halal and tayyiban. We are only talking about halal, but we forget about tayyiban part, right? So we need to make sure the consumers, before make their purchasing decision, they have to have it. And this applies to especially the the Muslims who living in non-Muslim countries. We must educate our consumers to look for these, and that's something very important. So what are the key takeaways? Number one, in a VUCA world, designing a sustainable halal ecosystem in emerging markets requires adaptive governance. We need to adapt. We cannot be rigid. We need to adapt governance, and also resilient in supply chains, right? We need to be resilient, and also technological integration, as I just mentioned to you. We need to integrate technology and strong institutional collaboration. So institutional collaboration is government and non-government, government and the private sector. We need to have strong institutional collaboration. Without that, we cannot build a proper halal ecosystem. All have to work together as a team. So this must be focused. The second takeaway I would like to mention here is, by addressing the volatility VUCA world, of course, the emerging markets can build a robust halal ecosystem that supports economic growth of the country, which is going to help the economic growth, and consumer trust, another, and also long-term sustainability in the global halal economy. So by addressing the VUCA elements, the emerging markets can build a robust halal ecosystem. There's no doubt about it. And that supports economic growth of the country. Also consumers, of course, they will build trust, and also long-term sustainability in the global halal economy. And Jazakallah khair, thank you very much. And it's my pleasure. And once again, I thank the organizers and Brother Muhammad from Islamic Economy Academy, and also the SMIC, His Excellency Brother Ihsan, Sister Rosie, and the entire team for well done organizing such a wonderful, timely needed conference. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Cader. I believe that is a lot of things we need to do, and it is just a beginning. Let's say if we were to look into your slides and then Dr. Awal Fuseini's slides, and to scrutinize to see how it can be turned into action plans from a practical way. So I think that is already a compass, not only for us now, but also for our future generations to sustain it and as a succession plan. Thank you again, Dr. Irshad Cader, for sharing a wonderful knowledge, and we hope that it is just a beginning. Now we will come upon Sister Miss Anita Isa, faculty member, Institute of Enterprise Risk Practitioners of Malaysia. And her topic is also a big topic on navigating VUCA, managing risk in rapidly changing business environment. Please welcome Madam Anita Isa, and her expertise for risk management in a challenging halal environment. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Hold on, yeah. I lost my slide. Okay. Can is my slide clear?
Alhamdulillah, it looks great.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum to everyone. Thank you for attending our conference today. First of all, let me introduce myself. So I am Anita from Malaysia. My career can be divided into three categories. The commercial section, head of sales. I was the head of sales and head of marketing for companies. In terms of strategic execution, I was in the strategy department as business analyst and also in project management department. And also in terms of governance, I was the head of group risk management for a public listed company, and currently I'm the faculty member for Institute of Enterprise Risk. At the bottom are the list of companies that I have worked in before, and majority of them are pharmaceutical and chemical companies, all from Malaysia and also outside Malaysia. So my title today is on risk. In terms of managing risk, I will cover in my second presentation on the 12th of March. So this part, I'm going to be a little bit naughty, not like Dr. Alina and Dr. Irshad says VUCA. It's not a crisis. It's something that you should look for opportunities. Now, don't get me wrong, as a risk practitioner, when you do risk, you do look at opportunities. You must. But you must not forget the issues in order to find the opportunity. So VUCA has been described today by Dr. Irshad and also yesterday by Dr. Alina. But for me, I would like to just summarize them into 3 words. It's chaos, turbulence, rapid change. Now, when you hear these 3 words, how do you feel? You worry, right? Dr. Irshad said, don't worry. But you still worry. Because these 3 words means there's going to be panic. You need to act. You need to do something. Now. Fast. So that's the new reality now where all of us are in now. Whether we are in business or educators or whatever position that we hold. I would like to take you back to the industry evolution. Okay, just push it up. Okay. To the industry evolution. Because this also shows the market changes. We started off with manual labor and then moved to domestic animals, and then we go into machines. After that, we have machines, then we have technology, then we have computer, and then we have internet. And now we are already in the AI. The total now currently in terms of stages of this evolution are 8 stages currently, but we are not even at the 8 stages. We are probably between 6 and 7. What I'm trying to impress is that at the initial part of the evolution of the industry is that it takes about 100 years before it moves to the next stage. From manual labor to domestic to machine, 100 years. But when we, in the information era, it was already from one stage to another already 50 years difference only, shorter. So from 100 years become 50 years before it moves to the next stage. And now it's 10 years to move to the next stage. 10 years is not very long. We already know time flies very fast. So the speed of change, the volatility, then and the interconnection, the complexity increase exponentially. So just now Dr. Irshad said we cannot already plan. I remember when I was in the strategy department, we planned for 10 years. But after a while, we planned for 7 years. And then we planned for 5 years only. And now we have 3 and 5 years. So I don't know about just now the halal master plan, right? Well, we need to plan long term because things need to develop. But we also need to manage and review, come back to our plans in terms of short term, maybe every 3 years, and change and review and update and upgrade. So that's how we are now. Dr. Irshad just explained this just now, so I will not cover it anymore. What I want to mention is that in my next slides, I will cover each dimension, each pillars of this VUCA, and how it causes risk or how it leads to risk in your companies. My example may not be a halal industry per se, but I hope you can apply what happened to other companies and in other industries in your own setup, because it's not going to be very much different. I hope you can apply that. So VUCA is the new reality. It is actually a daily operational hazard. I'm sorry, I'm going to be the bad person, the pessimistic here. I'm going to be the positive person in my next talk after this. So you mentioned for halal, the supply chain is very key to us. For in pharmaceutical, we can't easily change our suppliers. Whenever we want to change supplier, we need to we need to test it, make sure it delivers what it's supposed to deliver in terms of efficacy and safety, and then we pass it to regulatory department, the authorities, the government authorities, and then they come and test, they visit the plant of the supplier. Once they're happy, then only they give certificate. All these take a long time. So when there's a supply chain crisis, it affects us badly. The first pillar, volatility. I want to talk about human capital risk due to volatility. I'm not saying here is that with volatility, you only have one risk, human capital risk. No. What I'm trying to say here is that with volatility, actually, there can be many other risks, but I want to focus here on human capital risk. And human capital risk is not due to only volatility. It can be contributed by other factors as well, many factors. Why I choose human capital risk for this pillar is because, like mentioned by Dr. Irshad, human is the nerve center, is the core center. Human capital, if it fails, everything else fails. So for risk, we really have to take care of human capital risk. Do look at your human capital risk carefully. Do they have all these issues? A lot of companies are now talking about mental stress. Many companies are even giving leave if you have mental stress. You can request for leave, And then there's employee burnout, high staff turnover, psychological toll of constant change. What I'm trying to say here is that you just take a simple WhatsApp. The WhatsApp. With WhatsApp now, you used to, as a boss, you probably send documents last time for them to work on through email. But email you shut down, right? But now with the phone, the email is always on, and you don't even bother to send email because from WhatsApp, they can already see that it's from you. It's so obvious this WhatsApp is from you. You attach a document on the WhatsApp and they get it immediately. So it's faster. Email, you probably, last time you need to switch on the computer and get your document, attach it and all that. But now, just attach it to the WhatsApp. And what more? WhatsApp is 24 hours. You don't even have to switch on the computer. You're on the phone 24 hours wherever you are. And because of interconnected globalization, the complexity, right? You have so many groups of WhatsApp. You have department WhatsApp group. You have project WhatsApp group. You have safety. You have your friends, your family. And because of this, you even have your primary friends WhatsApp group, because now you can get connected to them very easily. I have a friend who experienced burnout because she is very inclined to clear all the messages. She cannot see any in the WhatsApp where there's unread message, because she fears that she will miss any important messages. And if it's the boss, furthermore, you want to quickly look at it, right? And work on it. And then because it's sent already to you, they expect you to work on it immediately and as soon as possible. And this is from one WhatsApp. What about the other WhatsApp? You know, they say, hey, did you see it already? It is in the WhatsApp. And then in one WhatsApp group, there's hundreds of people inside there. So because of this, it caused a psychological toll to the staff. And they probably ask themselves, I don't think I fit into this company because I don't seem to be able to work as fast as they want, as good as they want, as effective. So I think I will better leave and look for another company that maybe can do my job better. And we blame the Gen Z for this. We say they're not loyal, when actually it's all this environment that caused them to react that way. The next is impact of uncertainty. Again, here I would like to highlight strategic risk. Like I mentioned earlier, there can be any other risk due to uncertainty, but here I want to highlight strategic risk. Why? Because strategy, your plans, you spend time, the top management spend time, you even sometimes hire consultants, do data gathering in order to assess the market and then develop a strategy for you to grow or develop new product, you know, and so you spend time. After time of just to develop it already involved resources of top management and then money spent on consultant and data gathering. Implementing them, you probably then spend, if it's a new product, spend money on machines, spend money on training, and then spend money to implement it, branding and all that. So if your strategic risk is not managed well, depending on how much you have invested, it will then relates to the impact, the amount of impact the company will face if it fails. For example, here, Nissan versus YD. When electric cars was launched by YD, Nissan didn't think that the market would take it up that fast. Because, hey, to charge the car facilities is not everywhere, may be difficult, or they're not familiar on how to, you know, even manage electric cars. I don't think they will change. But to their surprise, they did take up the YD electric cars. And therefore, Nissan suffers heavy losses and huge debts and had to cut jobs. Impact of complexity. In every of our halal conference, we talk about supply chain because for halal, we need to be selective in terms of our suppliers. There are 7 choke points in the world in terms of the sea supply chain. And Suez Canal is one of them. And this one was unexpected, this event, the evergreen blocking the Suez Canal. And what happened was it triggered not just a sea supply chain crisis, it's a global crisis. Because when you don't have choice, if your suppliers cannot supply via sea, then you ask them to supply via you need them immediately because already there's backlog and delays. Then those people who use air supply chain will then have to fight for their slot. So it triggered a global crisis because everything is connected. Something that happened one corner of the world, you pinch one corner of the world, the other corner will feel the pain. When I was the head of risk, during the Russia invading Ukraine, the board directors asked me, Anita, can you assess the risk analysis to the company? I did my analysis and I said, no problem. Don't worry, because we don't have people there. We don't have business there. We don't have supplier. We don't have R&D. We don't have anything to do with Russia and Ukraine. Nothing. No worries. But you know what happened? The margin of my company was reduced to so low because US currency fluctuate. And Malaysians, as a Malaysian company, we buy our raw material using US currency and we sell in Malaysian ringgit. Therefore, our margin reduced. So you see, something that you think is far away, it's not going to hit me, it did because of the interconnection and the complexity of things. It is actually a risk nightmare because you don't know where it's coming, because there's too many possibilities. This one is another example of complexity, operational risk here. What happened is that South Korea, they have this what they call super app, Kakao. Kakao, you can use it to pay, to buy groceries, to make phone calls, to for telecommunications, book taxis, whatever not. So basically, the people in South Korea, they actually depend on Kakao a lot for a lot of their daily life chores and activities. This is another thing that we need to look at in terms of our organization and our setup. Do you have something like this where you depend 80% dependence on one item or one person or anything for that matter? If you do, that is high risk. You need to do something about it. So here, the fire was actually, it was just a fire and it was put out very fast. But unfortunately, to start Kakao operation takes time. And so much so that because it impacts so many people, the co-chief had to resign. Impact and ambiguity. So I was talking about WhatsApp, right? So this is fraud risk. Case study, real case study from Maybank Malaysia CFO. What happened was the CFO of our Maybank is one of the largest bank in Malaysia. In fact, one of the largest bank in Malaysia. The CFO received a WhatsApp in her phone, personal phone, which is a bit unusual because if there's anything about business, it's in her official phone, company phone. But anyway, she got it and she received a message from the CEO from the branch Maybank in Singapore and to ask her to transfer about 1 million to this trading company. And the number looks unfamiliar, but she didn't question because after that, they have a meeting, a Zoom meeting. So what is there to query about, right? I have a Zoom meeting with that person. So she did. So she transferred. And but then she transferred to JP Morgan first before to the trading company. Now JP Morgan hold back the payment, and this made Khalid, the CFO in Malaysia, to wonder why was it held back. So she did a further check. What she did was that she called the CEO in Singapore. He said, "You asked me to transfer this. Is there any issue?" Then the CEO said, No, I didn't give that instruction. So quickly, she got back the money, and so there was no loss. But unfortunately, she was still asked to leave because she didn't report the matter to all the needed relevant parties, and they feel that she should have been more careful because there are a lot of things. There's a lot of gaps here and there. But you know, when you work with so many emails, so many things to do, to look at, and you need to work fast, you tend to miss those little signs that say this is something you need to be careful. The red flags, you tend to miss it and take it as like, oh no, I did the Zoom call, should be all right now. So that's the thing that now you have to be even take into details the little red flag that you see. You need to be aware of that and not push it aside. Another one which just happened recently to our king. So on the TikTok and also YouTube, the AI generated videos impersonating the king, that he is offering financial aid to the public in this Ramadan month. So here we're talking about the crisis of truth. Remember when Halal, we're all talking about branding, trust. In branding, you need to have the consumer trust. But with a situation like this, ambiguity, like, is it correct? Stuff looks right or no? So this is a risk where we need to be careful that it can happen, and it can be a reputation risk, and reputation risk is not easily managed, or or you cannot recover that fast with reputation risk. So you need to have something to watch out for in terms of all this. So my key takeaway is that I say it's a crisis, but yes, I don't deny that it can be an opportunity. Certainly an opportunity. Once you understand the issue, then you probably find ways to get around it and find new things. So, but each VUCA dimension creates real organizational risk that we all must look at. So that's all from me. I do hope that you can apply this in your setup, in your halal setup, because my example isn't really halal per se. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe that it is very relevant, Ms. Anita, not only from the humanities perspective, but also from the halal global platform, because crisis or inconvenience or tests affect humanity. So whatever that is from your field is actually accessible also to the halal industry, halal governance, as well as halal consumerism in acquiring your knowledge and to apply it as one way of providing solution to never-ending problem. Okay, so I think as of now, we have actually succeeded in sharing great presentations, 3 sessions, and we will now proceed to the panel discussion. Okay, so this time I will start first with Miss Anita, because you're the freshest panel, and also you have the notice trick of redefining VUCA from which is yes, interesting, and it's struck a chord here with me, because in Malay culture we have the Malay saying which says "Jom pecah, you kenyang," and literally the translation is, when the ship or junk breaks down at the sea, the sharks will be full because they will eat all the sailors, which means that when there is chaos, turmoil, or a great loss and experience by somebody else, the catastrophe, war, financial losses, or nature, other people will profit. So I think from our VUCA point of view, how can we have a mental paradigm shift on a positive way to see that this should be a way of opportunity and turning a crisis into strength and opportunity. Okay, so this is a round the table question which I will ask Ms. Anita first to answer, followed by Dr. Irshad, as well as Dr. Awal, from your expert different perspective. Yes, please, Ms. Anita, your views.
My answer will be on the 12th March, but never mind. I give a review, a little bit information. Okay. Like everything else, what you do is that when you're in a situation, you must not panic. While it creates panic, you must not panic. Especially if I'm sure the people here are all senior, holding senior position in whatever setup that you're in. I mentioned that VUCA will kill panic. You cannot panic. So that is first thing, because when you panic, you cannot think straight, and and everybody else will panic. But if you show calmness and composure, then everybody else say, my boss seems to be all right. Then it means not too bad. So that's the first thing. So don't panic, and then you look at what is the issue really, what is the matter. That happen. That's kind of situation I'm saying when you don't panic is when it hit you without you realizing that it's coming. So that's the worst kind of risk. You're not prepared. Risk asks you to prepare, so you always need to look at the future and be prepared for it. But like I mentioned, due to current situation with VUCA, it's so complex and interconnected, you will not know when you're going to get hit. So when that happens, don't panic, look at the situation, analyze it, and then you react. Because as the leader, you need to show this type of calmness in order for everybody to be calm as well and not have chaos. And for long term, actually, you need the best is for you, the ideal situation is for you to already predict it may happen and then you get it prepared. So when you analyze risk, you put in controls and prevention and contingency. When it did happen, you are even more ready, and so you don't gonna panic because you are ready and you know what to do already. So that's the best part. That show wisdom. So that's important. Okay, that's my answer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sister Anita. Of course, and when we have done our homework thoroughly, when we have done a futuristic contingency plan, and of course, leaders alone cannot survive with a good. They must have a good followers, supporters, networking, a chain of networks of support, so that when Plan A fails, there's always another sustainable Plan B, C, D until Z, and so on and so on and so forth, so that the threat and weakness can be turned into strength as well as an opportunity. What about Dr. Irshad Kadir's viewpoint?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum again. I agree with Sister Anita, and she said about the risk. Of course, she's looking at it from the risk perspective, and VUCA to be a crisis from her point of view. And of course, it's correct, it's her context. But as a business management perspective, from organizational leadership perspective, VUCA, of course, it's part of risk factor, but always we will look for opportunities within the VUCA framework. So for an example, let's take the very recent example I can quote is COVID-19. So when the COVID hits, everybody was locked down and nobody can go out, no air traffic or no air travel. So it helped us to pause for a moment to think, right, we are in this situation, what we can do. Can we carry on the same way that we did in the past, or can we look differently? So many ideas came up. I hope you all can remember the airports were shut. Nothing was moving. We all were inside the house. At that time, now, when you really look at it, the world thought this is the end of it. I mean, I don't know when we are going to go back to work, when we are going to start opening our shops, and so on and so forth. Now, if you really look at the post-COVID, it turns out to be a new normal. What? Number one, work from home became a new normal for us, right? So it's the post effect of VUCA situation. Many online companies flourished. Many online companies, even online delivery, Amazon made lots of money, and Netflix started taking their stock market, the share market going up. IKEA started producing not portable, actually flexible office at home. Online gym started. So many businesses came up because that VUCA, the situation that we went through, that created opportunities for people or consumers or even the manufacturers or the entrepreneurs to find new ways of doing businesses. It created a huge impact on halal industry too, because so many apps, halal apps were brought in, and especially for food purchasing and also halal identification with the halal listed products in which the websites that we can look for halal friendly or halal products and services. Muslim friendly tourism started immediately after that. It was rush tourism, we call it. People started going out. Islamic Muslim destinations started booming. So it was the VUCA situation which created opportunities so that the entrepreneurs, business owners, plus the consumers. So the important thing that I think Sister Anita would agree with me, when you look at the consumer's mindset, they also changed. So it was a situation where in COVID-19, we have been attuned to one particular way of buying things, eating, or a lifestyle were one. And immediately after COVID, post-COVID, the lifestyle changed. And we always expect things to come to your doorstep now, rather going out and shopping, even especially Gen Zs. And when you talk about, you will have so many parcels out there at the doorstep every day, because now they have inculcated or, adopted to a new culture, which is basically aftermath of the VUCA situation during COVID-19. That I was just talking about the COVID. So I think if you really look at it from Islamic perspective, I think we cannot lay back and say that this happened and it's Qadr of Allah. Of course, we believe in Qadr of Allah. Also, we need to look for right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us, right, is this the last part? This is the last option that you have? Why don't you look for other opportunities? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us hikmah and wisdom for us to think and look for more opportunities, right? So that's the way we should be. And Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was basically to the level of torture and humiliation in the Meccan time, the last bit. So if Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, I tried all my options. I went to Taif, I was stoned. I was in the valley, I was starving. I was doing this and that, but I was not being, basically, my message is not being accepted, and I cannot do this job. SubhanAllah. No, he didn't. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him the way to go to Medina, migration. And there he established the Khilafah. So VUCA situation comes, it's not a static situation. Now we are going through another VUCA situation, which is the Middle Eastern crisis. We all are facing the situation. We don't know. It's so uncertainty, volatile, right? So how can we maneuver being in the halal industry, being a halal entrepreneur? How can I maneuver the situation and look for opportunities where I can head on and go forward and do my thing? So this is the way I look at it, Sister Anita, and of course, Sister Alina as well. So I think a Muslim should be always optimistic. And with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can. And we need to have tawakkul. And also we believe in Qadr. And also we need to do our ikhtiyar, and then inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy. That's my answer, sister.
Thank you, Dr. Irshad. What about Dr. Awal Fuseini? Because it says that if one party actually have harm or losses, the other party actually celebrate because it's a win for them, and it is like maybe unfair opportunity. Perhaps you can see it from your context, Dr. Awal.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Alina. I'm going to combine what Dr. Irshad and also Sister Anita has said. So Dr. Irshad focused on looking at VUCA situations, exploring the opportunities in those situations. And Sister Anita also highlighted the fact that as a leader, you need to have a calm head, don't panic, look at the situation, and then take a decision. As I already said, Allah has already laid a foundation for us to be able to withstand certain challenges in the world. So if you explore the opportunities, as Dr. Irshad has said, with good leadership, as Sister Anita has said, you can look at the future and conquer some of the challenges. Example is the COVID situation. We were faced with COVID situation where almost everybody became confused. But leaders at that time had to look at the opportunities with the development of apps, as Dr. Irshad has said, and also home delivery became a norm. And that was actually a positive thing because people realized that most of their foods were coming from miles and miles away. So that was good for sustainability because people switched to local production. And that should also tell our leaders, for instance, people in the GCC where about 90% of their meat is imported. So situations like COVID would have put them under a big challenge to start thinking of how to grow locally rather than to keep importing. And that is something that the Muslim community face almost everywhere. In Malaysia, you guys, those in Malaysia, you import a lot of your meat from other countries. So things like the VUCA situations will challenge us, but we need to have a look at the opportunities, and we need leaders who will not panic, who sit down and say, how can we do this? How can we do that for our own benefit? So that in the future, we can avoid situations like that, or we can be able to sort of tackle such challenges moving forward. Yeah, so that will be my input.
Well said, Dr. Awal Fuseini. And because of that calamity, suddenly it forced us to create new opportunities that actually at that time it is dependence on other sources. And then suddenly the local communities need to be independent and provide local solutions for the local consumption. That is really really in line with what we should be doing as a vicegerent and also stewardship to fulfill Allah's duty on us as Muslims and human. Okay, I have one question which I will combine with two good questions from Dr. Sheikh Al-Haji Maidagu. So Dr. Sheikh Al-Haji Maidagu asked two difficult questions. That is, what are roles of governments in developing a sustainable halal ecosystem? And not only governments to sustainable halal ecosystem, what is the best way of integrating differences of halal standards? So those are two big questions, and I'm going to add one more to marry them all, and how to empower our halal certifying body worldwide, because we know that not all halal certifying body are like the big ones from Malaysian Muslim. Yes, we are multiracial, but we have established it. There's also the Muslim majority countries, but we know that there are so many Muslim minority countries, and it is a great struggle just to be afloat. So we must also empower them. Okay, so from the business perspective of a private halal certifying body, or from a Muslim minority certifying body, how that we can really create a conducive ecosystem for sustainable halal ecosystem, as well as to harmonize standards, or actually make it easier to use, adapt and adopt. Okay, so the questions are channeled to any one three of you, so feel at ease to talk and share your insightful experience or knowledge. So we hope that your recordings of this will one day be referred again, and it's not just from theory but also turn into practicality for future generations to take action on. Okay, so please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, can I answer, Brother Hussein?
Yes,
Yeah.
please do, Doctor.
All right. Bismillah. Yes, it's a very good question. I think there are two questions in that. And the first one is what government should do in developing halal economy, if I'm not wrong, or halal governance. Unfortunately, I've been associating with number of course, countries within OIC, 57 member countries. Unfortunately, some countries have not thought of even having halal economy in their national economic policy, which is very sad. Could be due to their can't say negligence, could be they are unaware of the importance of halal economy, or maybe they're feeling that if we get halal economy into their national policy, that may backfire on them on certain discussions in the global forum, or they are not capable to think and get into the national economic policy. So that's number one. So could be ignorance, could be unawareness, could be also various other reasons, geopolitical reasons. They don't want to sort of go all out and say that, yes, our country is having halal economy as part of our national economic policy. So answering to the question, first of all, the government should believe that halal economy is one of the fast-growing economies in the world. and I have to take my share from this. Every country, every government should think. I'm talking about majority Muslim countries. They should believe in it. They should start working towards it. There are good case studies, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, and also the UAE. These countries have already established, and as I mentioned in my PowerPoint presentation, I quoted mostly examples from Malaysia and Indonesia because they have already established and matured enough, and they have incorporated halal economy into their national economic policy. So therefore, they can always approach them, bilateral relationship, and they can ask them, sharing knowledge. Of course, these governments will share how they developed this segment, which is lucrative. Now, when you look at Malaysia 2030 vision, the government was planning to achieve 230 billion ringgit by 2030, which is around 10.4 or 10.5% of the national GDP. It's a huge contribution to the national economy of Malaysia. So this is a good case study. So other governments also should look into. They can always share information. They will always support, because countries should take the initiative. So first of all, they should believe in it. Second, they should take the initiative, and they should also look for the successful case studies within OIC member countries, and they can find and they can share. So that's how they should. Always the countries, those who are not having halal industry into their national economy, they should move forward pretty fast, because others can take the share of yours, because countries are now moving, especially the non-Muslim countries are really driving. Thailand is, we call it kitchen of the world. So they are promoting halal food like no any other country. They're manufacturing food. They're thinking about how they can expand. Being a non-Muslim country, they're taking such initiative. And so these are good examples. So second part of your question, how we can harmonize these standards. So this is a great challenge that everybody is going through. If you look at a non-Muslim country that I live in, Australia, we have 26 halal certification bodies, 26. And each one of them have their own standards, or they must be having one or two from overseas. This is the fragmentation that we are looking for, we are talking about. Just imagine if somebody goes and complains, or if there is a question, the government, whom to go and talk to? You had 26 bodies. We don't have, unfortunately, it's not regulated. Anyone can open a halal certification body overnight. It's a matter of going up, filling the application and submitting it to the Ministry of the Agriculture. I mean, you're a certification body and you can start your business. And so this is unfortunate. So we don't have regulators. And even if you want to establish a regulatory body, and there'll be lots of opponents saying that, no, we don't want to be regulated. This is another part of the story. So SMIC is doing, and it's pretty hard. And we like to have a model like JAKIB, right? So it's the final authority in Malaysia, and MUIS in Singapore, right? And also Masjidul Ulama in Indonesia. So we need such regulatory board sitting on top, and they regulate the whole system. This has to be, we have to work on towards this. And I always talk to His Excellency Hassan, the SMIC Secretary General, say that how best, when is that good day for us to see every country is having the harmonized standards. So it's difficult, but we can achieve, inshallah, through dialogues, discussions, and we need to. Otherwise, we'll be at the losing end, inshallah. This is my answer. Hope.
You're on mute, Sister Alina.
Okay, so I think shall we I think the session has become more lively now. Many questions more from the chat box. Okay, here is an important question from Sister Rosie. So Sister Rosie asked a question focusing on Dr. Awal. Okay. So how can an opportunity be identified in the current UK Parliament debate on labelling? And are there any opportunities during previous UK Parliament move on stunning? Because these are actually still burning issues which is not resolved yet. Perhaps Dr. Fuseini, you can elaborate on this inquiry.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Alina. Sister Rosie, yes, there is a lot of debate going on in Parliament. I already explained that. So there is one group asking for labeling, and there is another group asking for a complete ban of slaughter without stunning. As we are discussing VUCA, there are a lot of issues here, but we need to take a step back and look at the opportunity. So banning of or requiring animals to be labeled is a good thing for the halal or for the Muslim community, in the sense that it will give consumers an informed give consumers the information to make informed decision. Banning of non-stand is a little bit controversial, and it's something the government of the UK has always said that they prefer all animals to be stunned. However, because of religious freedom, they are happy to allow for Muslims and Jews to continue to slaughter without stunning. So we do not think it will ever be banned in the UK. But what we've seen in other countries in Europe is that where non-stand has been banned, the Muslim community continue to consume non-stand that is not produced in the country. So there could be opportunities for import from neighboring countries who are producing products without stunning. I was awarded last year. I was awarded a scholarship by the UK agriculture sector to look at halal meat production around the world. So I've been to Australia, New Zealand, and other countries around the world. What I've realized is that within Europe, Poland has increased its throughput for slaughter without stunning. A few years ago, Poland actually banned slaughter without stunning, but they realized that the banning affected their meat industry. So because of that, the meat industry itself, not Muslims, the meat industry itself put pressure on the government to reverse their decision. And because of that, they reversed their decision. And from the time they reversed their decision till now, non-stand slaughter is actually going up. And the reason why it's going up is because Poland is now able to certify their domestic population and also export to other neighboring countries. So even if it was to be banned in a country, I don't think it will happen in the UK. There will be opportunities for others to export it to the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Awal Fuseini. That is actually many positive steps which are moving forward, not reversing behind. So a good strategic move is actually engagement from the meat industry player, which are stronger in terms of voice and pushiness to the government agencies. So the government agencies will also listen to the meat producers and try to be the middle party or middle persons to make consumers happy, producers happy, and end of the day, we have sustainable food supply chain with reputation and with safety. And also, I think Dr. Irshad also mentioned just now about wastage. Wastage is also not an easy way to overcome. And Sister Anita also about crisis, having to do it now, yesterday, when the crisis occurs today, and not to panic. So to see whatever restricted resources we have. And we have here a sharing from Dr. Sheikh Al-Haji Maidagu that update us a very good update. It's not just Malaysia from Halal Strategy. Nigeria also have Nigeria National Halal Strategy 2026. I think we shall also through this platform be of sharing to each other of what national halal strategies that countries have brought upon, because this will actually give a lot of leeway and spaces and potential solutions, because maybe Malaysia solution is not suitable for everybody. So it is actually niche and geographically centric. So Okay, I'm looking any more questions. Okay, so there is no more question from the chat. So I'm going to the round table question again for any last summary take home halal. Don't worry, it won't end here. We will have many sessions tomorrow onwards till end of Ramadan, and this is just take it as a opening and beginning for future halal action plan. Okay, Sister Anita Isa, what do you have to say to so that we as the audience can have something to really think and ruminate about concerning about risk management and so on from your viewpoint. Then followed by Dr. Irshad and Dr. Awal Fuseini.
Okay, so I mentioned VUCA is a crisis, but you know, with everything else, you get used to the environment and it doesn't become a crisis anymore because you are living in it for every day. So you got immune to it and you adapt to it, right? But having said that, you adapt whether you survive or not is through risk management. You need to be prepared. So that's my takeaway.
Okay, Dr. Irshad.
Yes, inshallah. So my takeaway is going to be what I presented. So first of all, we are going through a very tough situation at the moment. It's really a VUCA situation again, but we need to be resilient. So even if you're in any type of business or any other type of activities, make sure that you show resilience is something very important. How to get over from this situation. So first, inshallah ta'ala will help us. So first we'll have tawakkul, then also we'll believe in taqdeer, of course, and also we need to be ikhtiyar. Having done that, as sister said, let's implement adaptive governance when it comes to emerging markets. Then, of course, we need to take care of the supply chain. So it's very important for us. We need to be resilient in that. Try to integrate technology into halal industry. This is also part of our strategy when it comes to facing VUCA situation, especially in the emerging markets, and also strong institutional collaboration. So this is something which I have no words to stress. We need to work together as the governments, private sectors, NGOs. We need to work together. Inshallah, by doing that, we'll be able to develop the halal ecosystem and to take to the next level, inshallah, bi'idhnillah.
Yeah. Thank you
So
very
Dr. Irshad, technology and halal is a lot to work on. Okay, Dr. Awal Fuseini.
Yeah, well, what I would say
Yep.
is I would like to thank Dr. Irshad and Sister Anita and also Sister Alina and all those who have joined us today. My takeaway and also my suggestion is that, look, we've all discussed something that is very, very important for the Islamic economy and also how resilient we can become with VUCA situations. What I would suggest is that we should not just let it lie down here. If SMIC and other organizers of this organization of this conference could make the salient points that we have raised and see how they can put this in front of governments and also other certification bodies so that they can improve, because discussing it is very important, but putting it into action is what is very, very important, because we've all agreed that government needs to play a role in legislations, in incentivizing certifiers, and also in research and innovations. But the government may not be on this platform. The certifiers may not be on this platform. I'm not sure whether today SMIC is with us today, but SMIC was part of this conference. How do we make sure that we are not just talking, we are actually doing something with what we are sharing? Yeah, I think that's what I've got to add.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Awal. I think that is a heavy responsibility as the potential action plan, because we don't want whatever that has been shared today here online will be forgotten and no action being taken off. And we also have two added input from our chats. We have active participation from Sir Moin Khan, who also shared the good news that New Zealand, the halal certifying body, have full government support in halal matters, and this is very good because New Zealand is not a Muslim majority dominant country. And also Dr. Sheikh Al-Haji Maidagu also shared the good news of multi-sector national implementation committee for national Nigeria halal strategy, and it takes place on 3rd March 2026, the birthday, I think. So inshallah, we will support each other for halal no matter what. Okay, and we hope that this is just a beginning. And I want to thank you again, our respected audience, for being dedicated and committing your time and energies to listen to this Majlis Ilmu, and especially a warm and very respectful honor to our three established speakers for taking the initiative and efforts to enlighten us all. And I also learned a lot from you all. And thank you again. Have a blessed Ramadan. And that's all for today. We will inshallah continue again tomorrow. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
Waalaikum
rahmatullahi
salam.
wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.